I don't know about you, but I think adulting is hard. Figuring out your love life, finances, friendships, professional life, health, and how to make a freaking doctor's appointment on your own can be so overwhelming sometimes. So, welcome to Graduated and Grown, a podcast that's focused on helping you and me overcome the struggles of adulting. Let's have some fun yet honest conversations about life once you're graduated and grown. Hey everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of the Graduated and Grown podcast, y'all. I honestly can't believe I'm saying this right now. I'm here on the mic with y'all. So this is exciting, not only because it's the first episode, but also because this is the beginning of our journey through adulting together. So, hey y'all, my name is Ariane and I'm your host, the creator and the producer of the Graduated and Grown podcast. Now, this podcast is aimed to help young adults like myself navigate life successfully while letting our hair down, having fun conversations, and connecting with each other. But before I get into more details about what to expect from me in the pod, I feel like I should probably tell you guys a little bit more about myself because some of y'all may not know me. Okay, so now here comes the awkward part where I'm talking about myself. Believe it or not, guys, I don't necessarily like talking about myself. It's very strange for me. I prefer to talk about topics or experiences, but I feel like introducing myself was always so awkward, but whatever, here we go. So, hey y'all, my name is Ariane. I am a young adult that is trying to figure out life. I'm a recent graduate, I guess. I graduated in May 2020, which literally feels like forever ago, but I think that was 6 or 8 months ago. I don't know. I'm a young professional. I'm a creative. I have a YouTube channel. I'm a micro YouTuber. You can check out my channel, Ariane Janae's World. I'll definitely have the link and the information in the description box for the episode. I'm a novice painter. So during quarantine, that was my activity that really calmed my mind down and allowed me to be creative. So I've been doing a little painting here and there, you know what I mean? And I dibble and dabble in graphic design. And I guess that kind of leads me into my young professional life. So I'm currently working as a marketing and communication specialist, and a big part of that role is a lot of creative graphic design. And that has been a whole journey, but we can do a whole episode that's centered around adjusting from being a college student to a full-time working adult. But I guess I should also mention this, guys. I am living at home, working at home, living at home. And when I say home, I'm not talking about my apartment that I rented myself, y'all. I'm living in my childhood bedroom, in my childhood house, in my childhood bed. Literally, I'm at home, still with my family. And that has been a whole experience in itself. But that's another upcoming podcast episode. But yeah, so marketing communication specialist, I really like my job. I love my company. I literally can't wait until the office opens. Working from home has its benefits, but there's some things that I miss. I really miss the socialization aspect of working in the office. I do love the fact that I do not have to wear actual pants every day. And I also love the fact that sometimes I can just be in my pajamas all day if I don't have any meetings. But for the most part, I definitely miss the office. And I at least wish that I had the option to go in sometimes and at least meet my team instead of just seeing them via WebEx and Zoom. But anyway, so yeah, that's my professional life. Like I just mentioned, I graduated from college in May 2020. I went to Oakwood University, which is my historically Black university, HBCU, for those of y'all that don't know. And I majored in marketing and broadcast journalism. And I feel like my college experience was an experience. And I'm going to do a reflection episode with one of my friends so you guys can kind of understand that experience and how it kind of made me the person that I am today. But I definitely think college was a roller coaster. And here's the thing, y'all, I literally love roller coasters. That is one of my favorite things. Obviously with COVID, it's been impossible for me. Well, not impossible. I've chosen not to go, but I haven't been on a roller coaster probably in about 3 years. And ideally I would like to go at least once a year. Anyway, I'm getting off topic, but it was a roller coaster because there were a lot of amazing moments. And then there were some moments where I was really down and not feeling it, scared, sad, yada, yada, yada. But overall, loved that roller coaster ride. I mean, I feel like I wouldn't necessarily go back because I feel like it's time for me to grow up and move on, but definitely thankful for that experience. And I literally will never forget my college experience. And I feel like from college, I just learned a lot of life lessons, like just about myself, how I interact with people, what situations and environments I work best in. And I just feel like I really grew as an adult. I feel like before college, I was very dependent on my family. I feel like I still am more dependent than I would like to be. But college definitely, I had to grow up a little bit. Like at a point in time, it was like, well, girl, you have to figure out if you're going to go put gas in your car, if you're going to go hang out with your friends and spend $45 doing this and that. So that has been an experience, but unfortunately that experience is over. But it's exciting to be in this new phase of life that we call adulting. And I guess that kind of leads me into like why I started this podcast. So let's go back in time. We're going to go back to October of 2020. So I was on my girl Ornella's podcast. It's called Messy and Mindful. I'll also have that in the description box for this episode. But basically, she invited me on the show. She just wanted to talk about like life after graduation, like the impact of college, yada, yada, yada. And guess what the episode was called? If you can get this right, I'll give you $5. Go ahead. Okay, the episode was called Graduate and Grown, and I just had the best time just talking about that and just sharing my knowledge and just conversing, or if you want to say conversating, whichever one y'all like to say. I just really enjoyed talking with Ornella, and that really opened my eyes and made me say, yo, I think I want to start a podcast. So for the past, 3 months, I've been working on this podcast thing, taking different classes, watching YouTube videos, talking with my friends to get their feedback. And obviously, we made that thing happen because you're listening to this episode today. But yeah, so this podcast is basically going to be about adulting. As we know, adulting is hard. And unfortunately, there's not necessarily a book that lays everything out. Like, I've read a couple different books that talked about like things you need to know in your 20s or things you need to know before you adult or things you need to know after you graduate. But I feel like there's still so many, all those books I feel like are really surface level. But like I need to know the details of like raising my credit score. I need to know the details of figuring out if these college friendships are actually long lasting friendships. So like different things like that. I feel like we young adults need to learn more about, but it's not necessarily talked about. And then I want to find more ways through this podcast to make adulting more fun. Because I feel like when you're a kid, like, oh, I can't wait to be an adult. When you're a teenager, I can't wait to be an adult. When you're a college student, you're starting the adulting phase, but then it starts to get a little bit stressful because the bills start coming in. Some of us, or I feel like I'm not necessarily included because I'm still living at home, but that rent starts knocking at your door the first of the month. You know what I mean? Like you have all of these like major like financial, I don't want to say issues, but financial situations you run into that either you have the money for or you don't have the money for. And I feel like that adds a lot of stress. So anyway, I want this podcast to kind of show like how we can make adulting more fun rather than mundane and depressing. And I think that preparation is one of the best ways to have a fun experience. Like I feel like when I go into something prepared, I have a lot of fun. Now, don't get me wrong, sometimes those last minute decisions are some of the best decisions ever, and I have like literally the best times. But I think when it comes to adulting, being prepared is best because the decisions you make now literally can and or will affect you 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 45 years from now. It could affect your great grandkids. So definitely want to be intentional with all of our decisions, especially when we're first starting out this whole adulting journey. And then most importantly, I just want to help y'all and help myself figure out our 20s. And I also feel like this podcast would be a great like creative outlet for me. Like I mentioned, I already have a YouTube channel, but this is a different platform. This allows me to be creative in a different aspect. This allows me also to be in my pajamas and my headscarf while I'm recording these episodes rather than doing my hair and putting on clothes for YouTube. So I'm really, really excited for the content that I have planned for you guys. Now I want to talk about like the podcast plans and format because I think that's also going to give you a little little bit more insight into what to expect from me in the podcast. So this is going to be a mixture of a solo podcast and an interview podcast. I don't want to figure out adulting by myself. I think it's important to talk with others, learn from their experiences, learn from their mistakes, and then apply that to our lives, but also just to have like literally like fun and honest conversations about things. Like literally anything from dating to sex to having a healthy lifestyle, just literally anything that we encounter as adults, we need to talk about it. So sometimes it's just going to be me. Sometimes I'm going to have a guest on here. And to start off, it's definitely going to be a lot of my friends. And then once I start networking and getting to know more people, I definitely want to bring on some people that are my peers or just people I know from social media or just different mentors that I have in my personal life to come on here and just help us learn so that we don't make the same mistakes they did. And the plan is to do one episode per week unless something like juicy happens. Like if Matt James from The Bachelor does something crazy, I might have to hop on this mic and do a special Bachelor episode. Just saying. So be expected. Or just if anything crazy happens, it may be an extra episode that week. But this is definitely going to be laid back, chill, but also informative and fun. And I don't want to give away like everything for the podcast, but some of the topics that I want to cover will have to do with like starting and growing in your career. I know, like, for example, I just started my job in September of 2020 and love my job, love my position, but I know I don't want to be in the same position 10 years from now. I really want to see growth in my career. So we're definitely going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about like best practices from working from home. We can even apply some of this stuff for those of you who are in grad school, medical school, PhD programs, whatever it is. So we're going to talk about like, starting and growing your career. We're going to talk about figuring out personal finances. And I think this is something I've gotten really passionate about like in 2020, partially because of the pandemic, I guess, because I just saw how something can really mess up your finances and about how important it is to save, invest, budget, just make good money moves. And I think anybody is capable of doing it, but we just have to make sure we have the right resources and tools. So definitely going to talk about that. That's going to be really, really good. That's what I'm really excited about. We're going to talk about post-grad expectations versus reality. I love talking about expectations versus reality because life is not what you always think it's going to be. I literally never expected that I would be 22, almost 8 months after graduating from college, and I'm in my childhood bedroom. And I can literally yell and talk to my mom any time of the day. Literally wasn't expecting that. So we're going to talk about expectations versus reality. Another topic of mine that I'm like really passionate about, and I struggle with this, full moment of transparency, imposter syndrome. I don't want to get into this too much, guys, but a couple weeks before I started my job, guys, I was literally in my room like, I don't deserve this position. I don't deserve to be in this program. I just felt so undeserving. I felt like I didn't earn my spot, but we're making baby steps. I definitely don't feel that way anymore. And of course, everyone loves talking about this. Relationships, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about, friendships, how to start them, how to grow them, how to stop them if you need to, and also like how to have healthy platonic and romantic relationships. I think that's also something that I really want to learn more about in 2021 because I feel like I could have done a better job growing my friendships during the whole quarantine or just throughout 2020. I hate saying throughout quarantine because quarantine was really only for like a couple months. And then we're also just going to talk about other fun topics that come up as the podcast grows. And a way that you guys can actually contribute to the podcast is outside of rating and subscribing to the podcast, because that helps out a lot. And you guys will always get notified when I post a new episode, which will be every single week. But if you guys follow the Instagram, which is at Graduated and Grown on Instagram, you'll be able to, submit questions or submit topics that you would like me and or guests to talk about. And of course, if you also have a guest that you think would be a great addition to the podcast, definitely DM that page and let me know. And I would definitely reach out to that person to see if we can get something chopping, something on the table, something on and popping. But yeah, so this is going to be a really fun journey for me and all of my listeners. I can't wait to hear from you guys. And please feel free to give your feedback on this podcast. Again, this is my very first episode, so I'm definitely open to all feedback, and you can definitely give me that feedback either in the review section or through the Instagram for the podcast, or you can DM me on my personal Instagram, which will also be in the description box for today's episode. Okay, and now before we move on, I also want to talk about kind of like the format for the podcast. So at the very beginning, we're going to have like, if there's a guest, it's going to be an icebreaker or some type of fun question just to get, the blood boiling. I don't know if I should say blood boiling, but just to get the energy on and popping. And then we're going to get into the body of the podcast. But at the very end, I'm going to do something called Topic of the Week, basically where we just talk about something that is relevant or important that happened that week. And it could be anything ranging from politics. It could be, I love The Bachelor. So it could be about The Bachelor. It could be about something that's going on in my personal life or a guest's personal life. But this is just a time to kind of like talk about something that's not necessarily related to the episode's topic and just really get to know each other on a deeper and more personal level. So I think you guys will definitely enjoy that. And again, I will also take suggestions for the topic of the week on the Instagram as well. Yeah, guys, this is going to be really, really fun. I can't wait for you guys to see what I have planned. I think you will definitely enjoy it. So that was me giving you a little background into who I am. I hope you guys enjoyed learning a little bit more about me and learning about why I started the podcast, as well as my podcast plans and format. This is going to be interesting. And I really, really hope you guys enjoy this. Well, before I go, I just want to remind you guys, again, be sure to rate this podcast 5 stars. Check out some of my other episodes and be sure to follow the podcast on Instagram at Graduated and Grown. Every week, there'll be some type of interactive / engaging content for you guys to interact with or share on your social media and give you a little bit more insight about each week's topic and guests if there is a guest for that week. And also, if you know anyone that's also in this phase of life that's trying to figure out adulting, be sure to send them this podcast and also tell them to subscribe so they can be notified of when there is another podcast episode coming out. But you guys, that's all I have for you in this first episode of the Graduated and Grown podcast. I'm so excited. I'm so thankful for everyone who helped me out with coming up with my plans and my podcast art. Shout out to my girl Sherry. She does the graphics. I'll have her information in the episode notes as well. But that's all I have for you guys. Stay safe, stay warm, and I will see you guys in episode 2 of the Graduated and Grown podcast. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the Graduated and Grown podcast. I appreciate you so much. If you haven't already, be sure to rate this podcast 5 stars and subscribe to the podcast so you can get a notification every single time a new episode is posted each week. Also, don't forget to follow our Instagram at Graduated and Grown so you can learn a little bit more about our guests, about our topics, get some resources, and provide some feedback and or episode ideas for the podcast. All right, y'all, it was your host, Ariane, and I'll talk with you all next